My sister took my credit card for a lavish Tokyo adventure, and my father backed her up. Until I made them both face the consequences, I was jolted awake by the soft glow of my phone illuminating the nightstand. At first, I thought it was just another junk notification, but the relentless buzzing told a different story. Groggy, I grabbed the phone and saw a flood of alerts from my banking app. 10, 11, 12 transactions between 3:07 and 3:28 a.m. My mind struggled to catch up. A $1,200 airline ticket, $2,800 at a high-end Tokyo boutique, $3,100 at a luxury jewelry store, and several smaller charges, $600 here and there at unfamiliar gift shops and restaurants. My stomach churned. I shot upright, dread hitting me like a bucket of cold water. I grabbed my wallet from the desk drawer, empty. The slot for my credit card was bare. I lived with family, not strangers. My younger sister, Leela, had been staying with me for what was supposed to be a few weeks but had stretched into 2 months. She was between jobs and needed a place to crash. I'd been covering her groceries, utilities, even her Uber rides because she claimed public transport made her anxious. Now my card was gone. Heart pounding, I stumbled down the hallway. Leela's door was shut, only the faint hum of her phone charger audible. I knocked once, twice, no answer. I cracked the door open. No Leela, just an empty bed. The kitchen was dark, the bathroom empty, the front door slightly ajar. By morning, the truth hit me via Leela's Instagram story, time-stamped 4:02 a.m. Her grinning at the airport with our cousin Mia, both clutching boarding passes. The caption read, "First class to Tokyo, baby. Live large when life's short." My jaw clenched. By noon, the bank confirmed the charges totaled just over $11,000. I froze the card and filed a fraud report, but a deeper anger simmered, not just at Leela, but at the predictable way this would play out when she returned. I wasn't wrong. A week later, she sauntered through my door like she'd been on a weekend getaway, dragging 2 designer suitcases. Mia wasn't with her. She was apparently still enjoying Kyoto. Leela reeked of pricey perfume and duty-free champagne. Before I could speak, Dad, who'd come to pick her up, stepped in with his classic disappointed glare. "Stop exaggerating," he said sharply. "She'd never take your money. You've always been suspicious of her." I didn't argue. I just smiled because that card she used wasn't ordinary. To understand why Leela swiped my credit card in the dead of night, you need the full picture. Leela's been the family's golden child since birth, no exaggeration. If she wanted something, it was hers, no matter how reckless or selfish. Call her out, and she'd morph into a fragile soul who couldn't handle criticism. Meanwhile, I was the reliable, straight-A student, working at 16 to cover my own phone bill, staying out of trouble because I knew I'd bear the consequences alone. Dad called me trustworthy, a compliment that really meant they could take from me without expecting pushback. By 23, I had a solid IT career and my own 2-bedroom apartment. Leela, at 21, was on her 3rd career path. She dropped out of community college after 6 months to find herself, quit cosmetology school because it was too superficial, and left a cafe job because the manager didn't appreciate her energy. Guess who paid her rent when she was between incomes? Who stocked her fridge when her paycheck was late? Who co-signed her last credit card because the bank was unfair to her credit history? Me. Here's the twist. Leela never saw my help as generosity. It was just what family does. Oddly, only when she needed something. 2 months before the Tokyo fiasco, she called me at midnight, sobbing. She'd fought with her roommate and needed a place to stay for a few nights. I agreed, thinking it was temporary, despite every warning sign I'd learned to ignore. A few nights became 5, then 2 weeks, and soon she was calling my apartment our place. When she drank the last of my almond milk without asking, I knew I'd messed up. The real red flag was the expensive packages arriving in her name, luxury makeup, designer shoes, things she couldn't afford. When I asked how she was paying, she laughed. "Don't worry, I've got it covered." Translation. She was piling up debt, likely expecting me to bail her out. The night before she stole my card, we barely spoke. I was working late on a project, and around midnight, I shut my laptop and went to bed. Leela was sprawled on the couch, scrolling Instagram and FaceTiming Mia, her partner-in-crime cousin who's just as entitled. I overheard them fantasizing about a lavish getaway, but I brushed it off as their usual pipe dreams. Leela had less than $100 to her name. She'd borrowed from me for her phone bill last month. At 3 a.m., while I slept, she crept into my room, took my wallet from the desk, and grabbed my card like it was pocket change. Apartment hallway footage later showed her sneaking out with a suitcase, meeting Mia downstairs, and hopping into a rideshare to the airport. When Dad told me to stop pretending she'd touched my money, it wasn't just denial. It was a pattern I'd lived with for years. When Leela totaled Dad's car at 19 while texting, he said she was lucky to be alive and bought her a newer one because the old one held bad memories. When she blew $4,000 of her savings on a Miami trip, he said, "You can't put a price on experiences." When she got fired from a retail job for skipping shifts, he took her to lunch to cheer her up. Me, when I overdrew my account by $40 in college because of a delayed paycheck, Dad lectured me for 20 minutes on fiscal responsibility. So, standing there with Dad glaring and Leela smirking behind him, I knew arguing was pointless. He wouldn't listen to bank records, timestamps, or Instagram posts. To him, Leela wasn't just innocent, she was incapable of guilt. I was just the paranoid older sibling who needed to chill. But what my family didn't know was that the card Leela took wasn't a regular one. It was a business card tied to my IT consulting side hustle, which I'd quietly built for 2 years. It had security features Leela couldn't imagine. The second she used it for those first-class tickets, I got an alert, not just from the bank but from my own tracking system. Every purchase was logged, geotagged, and backed by merchant data. I had everything I needed. I wasn't just getting my money back. I was ensuring no one in my family would pull this again. A week after Leela's return, the tension in my apartment was suffocating. She offered no apology, no explanation, acting like her two-country luxury spree was a casual jaunt. Dad kept dropping by to check on her, which meant scowling at me for being distant with my poor sister. That Friday, I'd had enough. I was done being the family ATM, done swallowing my frustration while Leela and Mia lived off others' money, done with Dad's blind loyalty to his little girl. I set the trap. I told Leela I'd ordered her favorite sushi, overpriced, the kind that makes you question the cost of raw fish, and said we needed to clear the air, inviting Dad too. They arrived on time. Leela in a silk robe and $900 slippers she'd bought in Tokyo's Ginza district, Dad in his usual jeans and polo, disapproval already etched on his face. We sat around the dining table, takeout steaming. After a few minutes, I leaned back and asked, "So, Leela, about the $11,000 you charged on my business card?" She rolled her eyes. "You're still on that? I told you I didn't touch your money. Stop inventing drama." Dad jumped in. "Enough, Ethan. We're not doing this again." I smiled. "Good, we're not debating, we're proving." I pulled out my laptop, already loaded with a report from my card's tracking system, every purchase detailed with merchant names, timestamps, and CCTV stills from vendors happy to share once I mentioned fraud. The first slide showed Leela and Mia in the lax first-class lounge, champagne in hand, boarding passes visible. Time, 3:58 a.m. Dad froze mid-bite. Leela's chopsticks hit the table. Next slide. Leela using my card at Haneda Airport's duty-free shop, arms loaded with luxury bags. Time, 5:12 p.m. Japan time. Another, her buying those $900 slippers she was wearing. "Want me to keep going?" I asked, voice steady but sharp. Dad tried to speak, but I cut him off. "No, you've been telling me to stop pretending all week. Let's lay it all out." I didn't just freeze the card. I filed a formal claim for unauthorized charges. The bank reversed them and the police have this report. Leela's face went pale. "You called the cops? You made unauthorized purchases," I said calmly. "On a business account which carries serious legal weight, you jeopardized my livelihood." Dad slammed the table. "Ethan, this is family. We don't drag family into legal messes." I laughed, sharp and bitter. "Family? The same family that's been draining me for years while excusing her every mistake. The same family that told me to stop pretending when I had proof." Leela's voice broke, her bravado crumbling. "I can pay you back." I leaned in. "No, you can't. You don't have $11,000 and you won't. Pack your bags tonight and get out. And Dad," I turned to him, "you're not welcome here until you admit what she did and apologize for choosing her side." Dad's jaw tightened. "You're making a mistake. She's your sister." "No," I said, standing, voice rising for the first time. "She's an adult who's been coddled into thinking she can take without consequences. Well, now she'll face them." I slid an envelope across the table, printed police report, bank inquiry case number, and transaction records. "If you think I'm bluffing, call the detective listed there. He's waiting." Leela's hands trembled as she bolted from the table. "You're ruining my life." I stepped aside, pointing to the door. "No, Leela. I'm just making sure you don't ruin mine again." She stormed to the spare room to pack. Dad lingered, staring at the envelope like it might explode, then muttered something about my coldness and followed her. As the door shut, I felt a weight lift, control over my life unyielding and real. It was just the start. For the next 24 hours, my phone buzzed nonstop. Leela's text started with denial, "You're overreacting. You've always been jealous. You'll regret this." Then shifted to voicemails, half sobbing, half yelling, "You've turned the family against me. Dad's so upset he's not eating." Good. Let him feel what it's like when someone else isn't footing the bill. Dad called next. I ignored him. Then Mom, who I hadn't seen in weeks, chimed in with guilt trips. "Drop the charges. It's tearing us apart. She's your only sister." I'd been propping Leela up since we were teens. She'd only ever propped up her own bad habits. 2 days later, the consequences hit. Detective Harris from the Financial Crimes Unit called to confirm they'd contacted Leela. Her options: repay the full amount and sign an admission of guilt or face charges. I braced for more begging but got silence instead, almost worse, like she was scheming. Sure enough, Mia called next morning, voice fake cheery. "Leela's terrified. This could ruin her career." I waited, then cut in. "She should have thought of that before stealing. And Mia, I'd delete that Tokyo photo dump before the police ask how you funded your ticket." The line went dead. That afternoon, Mom showed up unannounced, walking in like she owned the place. "They're in a motel," she said, voice dripping with accusation. "It's awful. You've humiliated your sister." I leaned against the counter, studying her. "Humiliated? No, Mom. I fixed the mess she made." "You could have kept it quiet," she said, voice trembling with practiced guilt. "Family stays private." "It's only public," I shot back, "because Leela made $11,000 in unauthorized charges. She wanted luxury, now she's got the consequences." Mom stiffened. "Your father thinks you've gone too far." I smiled. "Dad's not welcome here until he admits he was wrong. And if he keeps calling the detective to fix this, he'll have to explain why he's defending someone under investigation." That shut her up. Within a week, the family split. Dad, Mom, and Leela's loyal cousins painted me as the heartless sibling who betrayed his sister. My aunt, uncle, and a few others who'd watched this dynamic for years reached out privately, proud I'd finally stood up. Uncle David said, "We all knew Leela was out of control, but no one wanted to say it first." The real blow came 2 weeks later. Leela showed up at my building not to apologize, but to bargain. Dressed in plain sweats, no designer labels, she looked small. "They'll drop it if I pay you back in 6 months," she said, avoiding my eyes. "But you need to tell them you're okay with it." I didn't flinch. "Send payments through my lawyer." "I'm not speaking for you. Do it on record or face the charges." Her eyes welled up. "You're really done with me?" I leaned against the doorframe. "Leela, I was done the moment you took my card. This is just paperwork." She left without another word. 3 months later, it was over. Leela scraped together the money, signed the admission, and the fraud was on her record. Dad hasn't met my gaze since. My life grew quieter, calmer, richer, not just financially, but in ways I hadn't realized I needed. No more unexpected visitors. No more unpaid loans. No more navigating someone else's entitlement in my own home. It's been 6 months since I slid that police report across the table. Leela hasn't set foot here since. Dad sends occasional passive-aggressive texts. "Hope you're proud." I am. For the first time, I'm not in damage control, not bracing for the next crisis only I can fix, not budgeting for someone else's recklessness. I'm done feeling guilty for putting myself first. Looking back, it's almost funny how long I let it go on. Years convincing myself it was a one-time thing, that paying was easier than fighting, that family helps family, even if it drains you. But here's the truth they don't want you to know. If you don't set boundaries, they'll keep moving the goalposts until you're a stranger to yourself. They won't stop because you're kind. They stop when you make it impossible to keep taking. And when you do, they'll call you selfish for cutting off their supply. A few weeks ago, I ran into Mia at the grocery store. She froze like I was a ghost. I said hello and kept walking. She probably expected me to ask about Leela, to show some lingering care. I didn't, because I don't. Leela's record bars her from certain jobs now, which she likely thinks is unfair. Her Instagrams shifted from first-class lounges to thrift hauls and cheap wine, captioned with "New Beginnings" quotes. But I know better. This isn't reinvention, it's reality catching up. I'm not gleeful about her struggles, but I'm not burdened by them either. Actions have consequences, and for once they landed where they belonged. A few days ago, I was on my couch, feet up, laptop open to a new client contract. My phone pinged with a bank email. $7,800, Leela's final payment. I stared at it, then laughed. Not because I needed the money, I'm doing better than ever, but because it felt like the last nail in a coffin I'd been building for years. Not for Leela, for the old me. The me who went above and beyond to keep the peace. Who confused enabling with love. Who thought saying no meant betraying family. That me is gone, now. I keep my doors locked, bank alerts on, boundaries firm. My space is mine, financially, emotionally, physically. I've stopped justifying my choices to people upset they can't profit off me anymore. If Dad, Leela, or anyone else tries to push those limits again, I won't need proof or police reports to stop them. One word will do? No. Because I've learned the most freeing truth. I'm not their safety net, their backup plan, or their last resort. I'll never be their ATM again. Thank you for watching my story. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe and press the bell icon. Stay tuned for more real-life stories, get more experiences.